Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicholas Ryan Gant. Thank you. Affectionately known as the ghetto falsetto in the streets. And I'm really grateful to be here. The first time I ever felt really like I could be myself and be my whole black self on stage was in a production of Black Nativity with the Black Theater Troupe in Phoenix, where I grew up. And so being in this moment is really special to me. So thank you for having me. Can you just say, all we got is us? Can you say it with your chest? Say, all we got is us. Cool. This song is called Just Us, and it's for us. Do 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 ha do 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 ha do 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 ha do 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 ha do 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 ha do do There ain't no just us, 'cause all we got is us. We don't need just us, no, all we need is us. I'ma sing it again. There ain't no just us, no, 'cause all we got is us. And we don't need just us. All we need is us. The guns they shoot make our blood bleed. Why? And the root is hate and greed. Why? Wish we knew just who we be. That would make us free. Cause there ain't no just us, no, 'cause all we got is us. And we don't need just us. All we need is us. And the laws they make, they lock us away from the love we create. Show us the way back to who we are. There ain't no justice. All we got is us. We don't need no justice. All we need is us. Brutality to fatality. Their words synonymous with their ways and their fallacies, but I can show you better than I can tell you. Just look at the concrete in every borough. You'll see their names spelled out in blood, and it's ravenous, better yet ridiculous. The way we refuse to elevate our mental and we consume regurgitation of an image that we created and ingest the negative image spit at us on a daily. But I can't wait for us to see the day when we walk with the purpose that God intended in, when we become the great leaders of Martin's vision, and when this war on these black bodies is ended in. I don't know what you've been told, but I've been told what the future holds. And in the beginning, it was written that in the end, we win. So there ain't no justice. All we got is us. We don't need no justice. All we need is us. They say the devil don't know what you're saying when you're moaning. Sometimes you gotta moan. There ain't no justice, no, 'cause all we got is us, and we don't need justice. All we need is us. Lord, dear Lord above, God Almighty, God of love, please look down and see my people through. I believe that God put sun and moon up in the sky. I don't mind the gray skies, 'cause it's just clouds passing by. So Lord, dear Lord above, God Almighty, God of love, please look down and see my people through.
Wasn't that just so beautiful and necessary? Please. One more round of applause for Nicholas Ryan Gant. The sort of one-man chorus, right? You know, one-person chorus. That song never ceases to send a chill down my spine. I want to gather us now for our final keynote conversation, one that will embrace the audacity of Black theater that we have been upholding, uplifting in so many dimensional ways this afternoon. Jordan E. Cooper made Broadway history as the youngest Black American playwright produced there with his Ain't No Mo. That play, with its collision of satire and sorrow, dared to ask America hard questions about race, belonging, and flight. Jordan is also the creator and star of the Miss Pat Show, where his sharp writing and fearless humor reach wide audiences while staying rooted in unapologetic truth. You may also have seen him on FX's groundbreaking series Pose, and this summer on the big screen in Freaky Friday. Jonathan McCrory, Obie Award-winning director and producer, has shaped the National Black Theater into a crucible for new voices and radical visions. For over a decade, he has championed work that others might have dismissed as too risky, demonstrating that risk is the lifeblood of artistic innovation. He also seems to have the capacity to be everywhere at all times, doing all things. So he will appear having done something else on the stage momentarily. He is an expert steward of partnerships with a range of stages as MBT has gone from strength to strength, using a theater without walls approach in the lead up to moving into their permanent home, your permanent home in Harlem. In the lead up to that opening, his curatorial leadership has nurtured a generation of artists and anchored MBT's presence nationally and globally. Their full biographies are in your program. What I want to underline here is that both Jordan and Jonathan embody a spirit of defiance. Defiance against silence, against conformity, against the temptation to dream small. Their dialogue will challenge us to imagine what it takes not only to sustain Black theater, but to make it thrive in and beyond this turbulent moment. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Jordan E. Cooper and Jonathan McCrory.
How y'all feeling? Y'all look good. I smell all the oils and all the fragrances of Blackness, just a collective beauty of Blackness. First of all, Nicholas, I almost hit Nicholas when he walked off because that was just too much. He needed his ass beat. That was too good. That was too good. But no, I am so incredibly honored to just share some words with y'all in this moment. I'm so humbled to be in this room. I'm so humbled that MBT is doing this and that they asked me to be a part of it. I see so many faces like, oh my gosh, Sade, thank you so much. Jonathan, thank you so much. So many faces of just people who have like lifted me up, Larry Jean, just so many, let me not, because I will just be in here forever. But I'm so grateful to be able to share a few words about this moment that we're in, a moment that feels like uncertainty, division, and a constant fight to lift up, thrive a little higher than the word survive. As we look around us, we are met with distractions, illusions, and lies. We live in a country that's helping to fund a genocide in Gaza. We live in a country where morals and decency seem to be lost at the bottom of the Hudson next to where somebody buried the word grace. We live in a country that is actively trying to make us forget our journey from victim to victor in hopes that we will once again be at peace in shackles. But the moment that I really want to lift up is the one that we're currently in this moment. Not that one, but this one, the one in this room. The one where we are asked to gather, reflect, manifest, demand, and create. Just take a second to look around you and drink in this space. Drink in the power of our collective. Drink in the power we have of storytelling, the love of it, the love of our Blackness, the determination we have of preserving our institutions, our gathering spaces, right? This is where the revolution boils, not on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, right? Our enemies own those spaces, but they have no power here. They have no power in this space. The real boiling only happens in high heat, and that fire comes from this, the gathering space. As I've been thinking recently on the importance of these Black gathering spaces in this time, including as it relates to theater, I can't help but be reminded of the past. Memory is a radical act, right? I can't help but think about the infamous summer of 1822. Now, I don't know how many of y'all know about the summer of 1822, but in 1822, Chester A. Arthur, who's a president that I've never heard of, was the 21st president of these United States, apparently. Slavery was still alive and strong in the South as well as in good old New York City. Two significant events happened that summer that I want us to pay attention to today. One includes a Black man by the name of Denmark Vesey. Denmark was born into slavery in St. Thomas, and at the age of 14, he was then sold to a slave owner in Charleston, North Carolina. At the age of 32, while in Charleston, Denmark won a lottery and was able to purchase his own freedom. He began to work as an independent carpenter and built up his own business. Around this time, he met an enslaved woman named Beck. Don't you love that name for a woman? Beck, that's kind of cute. Beck, right? They fell in love, but they were unable to marry due to her enslavement. They had children, but the law stated that any child born to an enslaved mother would also be considered enslaved. As years went on, Denmark tried his best to earn money to buy his wife and children out of slavery, but her master refused to sell her. Around this time, he founded an independent church in Charleston known as the African Methodist Episcopal Church. It's actually still there today in Charleston under the name Mother Emanuel. Frustrated that he felt powerless in being able to reclaim his family, Denmark used this new platform of the church as a means of gathering both free and enslaved black folks. Inspired by the biblical story of Exodus in the summer of 1822, Denmark led the plan of an insurrection. He successfully convinced thousands of black folks to join his plan. First, they were to attack the Charleston Meeting Street Arsenal where they could secure some weapons, right? Still some weapons. Then after that, they were to kill white slave owners throughout the city. Then after that, they would command ships from the harbor and sail to Haiti. Because there were so many enslaved folks who knew this plan, Denmark had a fear, of course, right, that someone would share this plan, someone would snitch and derail it. Unfortunately, those fears became a reality. 2 slaves who were loyal to their masters went and told of Denmark's plan. This leak tragically led to the murder of Denmark Vesey along with 47 other members of his congregation. That same summer, that exact same summer of 1822, in New York City, as word was spreading about Denmark's plan and his subsequent murder, a free man who became the first black playwright in America was producing his own production of Othello. This man was William Henry Brown, founder of the African Theater, which once occupied space in the financial district where there now stands an apartment building where the rent, I'm sure, is too damn high. William and his company of actors often found themselves in troubled waters, especially with the New York City elite. It would always cause a stir when they would perform these European plays in whiteface. Or they would play characters that allowed them to dress in immaculate gowns and suits, or integrate their audiences by allowing white patrons to sit in the back of the theater. But the year of 1822 proved to be a stressful one for the African Theater Company, particularly because of their decision to perform works by America's most beloved European writer. You know it. White New Yorkers found this appalling. How dare these monkeys pretend they are worthy of the bard? Despite calls to pull their production of Richard III, William Brown persisted, some would say foolishly. William and his troupe were arrested during their performance. Thanks to research done by Marvin McAllister, I was able to discover a white journalist for the National Advocate by the name of M.M. Noah. He published an article after their arrest, and it was called, "Hung Be the Heavens with Black," a mean-spirited nod to a line in Shakespeare's Henry VI. Noah's article read, and I quote, I'm gonna try to do my best asshole voice. "The ebony-colored wags were notified by the police that they must announce their last performance, but they, defying public authority, went on and acted nightly. It was at length considered necessary to interpose the arm of authority, and on Monday evening a dozen watchmen made part of the audience. 'Come, come,' said the watch, 'none of your play acting airs. Into the black hole with you.' Finally, the performers promised never to act Shakespeare again. The police released them at a very late hour." End asshole quote. Who exactly was this arm of authority arresting these colored wags? Theater scholar Joyce Green McDonald declares this authority was the white police power coming to the defense of Shakespeare. Later that summer of 1822, same summer, William Brown decided to produce a production of Othello in New York City. Some would say foolishly. The production was noted for its performances, but also its costumes, how rich and satiny and elegant they were. One of their performances was interrupted by a gang of white men who jumped on that stage and proceeded to rip off every piece of rich, satiny, and elegant attire those black performers had on. They were beaten. William was beaten the most severely. Of course, no one was prosecuted. The material damage totaled $200, which in 1822 is over $6,000 today. They lost all that money, but Brown lost more than money. He lost his actors, he lost patrons and representational control. As a site of riotous misbehavior and a den of disorder, his venture was now saddled with an unsavory and unshakable reputation. As most blacks were still enslaved, in the summer of 1822, liberators like Denmark and William did their best to press us forward. Some would say foolishly. Denmark lost his life, but William came back the following year and continued to produce theater. Only this time, legend has it, that he put a sign on the outside of the lobby door, no longer interested in integrated audiences. It read, "White people do not know how to behave at entertainments designed for ladies and gentlemen of color." Ain't that something? Now, in times like the ones we're living in now, we have a lot of opposition to face, right? And we have a lot of things we need to organize in order to defeat that opposition. But I find strength in remembering the sacrifices, the intentionality, and the determination of our ancestors. Our crown is already bought and paid for, right? We're not starting this from scratch. These ain't new conversations, right? The gun that started this relay race was shot from the moment black stepped his royal foot on the ground of this soil. It's our job to grab the baton. It's our job to study the blueprint and figure out how to build some new floors, some floors with a stronger structure, some floors with a wider ratio, some floors that are simply made just to bring us up a little bit higher, right? The thing that inspires me the most about the summer of 1822 is simply foolishness. I've been thinking a lot lately over the past year or so about intentional foolishness, and I've been writing about it. And I would like to share with y'all a little bit of my thoughts around foolishness, right? I believe there are two types of fools in this world. Stagnant fools who move unaware of the world that they live in and often speak louder than what they have to offer. And then there's something called intentional fools. There's an audacity that comes with a fool who moves with intention. There's a light force, a rumbling, a spiritual opening that moves when someone intentionally uses their foolishness to lead them to a land of promise. A fool with intent doesn't waver when someone says the path ahead is dangerous. They walk forward. Like Denmark and William, an intentional fool is too foolish to hold on to anyone else's fear. Too foolish to comprehend the word impossible. Too foolish to surrender when they are surrounded by their enemies. I used to always conflate these two words and be like, okay, I don't understand. There's a big-ass gap between those two things, right? Being intentional and being a fool. And there is a gap, but throughout my career and my life, I've come to learn exactly what that is that fills that big-ass gap between the two. I've learned that the gap is full of God. The gap is full of love. The gap is full of community. The gap is full of ancestry. The gap is full of revolution and risk and rhythm and blues and tears and laughter and speaking and listening and listening and listening and listening and obedience and doubt and prayer and faith and victory and confidence and consciousness and convincing. It is full of humility. It is full of knowing that Broadway is a tool and never a destination. It is time for us to act a fool, y'all. This is not new territory. Next time it looks impossible, act a fool. Next time a white institution pulls the rug out from under you, act a fool. Next time a black institution pulls the rug from under you, act a fool. Next time you turn on the news and don't like what you see, act a fool. We got a race to run. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but we damn sure can do it together. I'm proud we get to continue the story, and I am proud that I get to be in a chain of fools. Thank you.
All right. A chain of fools we talking about now.
Chain, chain, chain.
Chain, chain, chain.
That's it. That's it.
When you, I mean, one, those words need to sit in the universe for a little while. The sound that was articulated from your very breath needs to sit in the universe for a little while, right? Like what Anne Devere Smith would say is that like our atoms have now metastasized your sound, right? The walls of this building that was first crafted for military reasons is now being shifted by the architect of your words, right? And what does it mean also to think about the compounded nature of what has transpired over the course of this evening, right? As a thinking of it was a lot of intentionality. I'll just talk about a little bit of the curation. I'm gonna get into my questions to my brother. But there's a lot of intentionality in thinking about the guiding spirit when Tavia, Sade, myself, Mandisa, I want to uplift Mandisa, Darian, when we were sitting in our Zooms for 18 months thinking about y'all, 18 months to think about a day. 18 months to think about how we're going to craft a moment so people feel cared, and that when they walk out, their hearts are ready to do something, right? And someone was like, how does it feel to be ready for this day? This is going to be a conversation with him. I just want to give this context.
No, yes.
But in all of that, and thinking about all of that medicine of 18 months, it was like, it's like this is what it means to be present in 2025. That it takes 18 months to mobilize what love looks like in real form, in a militarized location with a militarized state that actually transforms and alchemizes the very essence of its walls to then lean into the blessing and glory of who we are as black and brown bodies in a space that was designed to conquer.
Yeah, because we at war.
Because we are at war. And what does it mean to alchemize that war with love? Because there's one echoing truth that has actually happened throughout this, and I think that's I would say that would be something that I want you to lean into some more, because I think about your work, I think about the essence of your work, I think about how you invite us in to your work. There's a question that I have around how are you etching in the essence of love into the crafts making of your work? What does it mean to love on black folks for you? And where did that source come from?
Yeah. Oh, I love that question so much. Because my introduction to theater, I started, writing plays when I was like 6, 7 years old. So I didn't really have a knowledge or a capability to curate for whiteness. I didn't really know how to do that. Like when I sit down to write, even to this day, I'm grateful for that, because when I sit down to write, that's not what's in my head, which is why sometimes black people will like be sitting next to a white person and feel uncomfortable at my work. And I'm like, well, I didn't write it for them, baby. I wrote it for you. What you think about them for? Like that in itself is white supremacy, right? When they are in the forefront of your brain and you're thinking about what they're thinking as they're sitting next to you. That ain't your business. Right? And I think that in everything that I curate, like even take Ain't No More, for example. Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to do was the minute you walked into that theater, you heard back that ass up. You heard, you know what I mean? You heard that? That's the unauthorized Negro spiritual. But you heard things that let you know that you were welcome, right? Because so often we walk into these spaces, particularly in the white spaces in New York City, we walk in and we feel like we are not welcome, right? There was an air where it's like, I remember I used to feel so like upset because I would walk into spaces and I would see people looking at me like I didn't belong there. Like I didn't pay for my ticket, right? Or like I would go to a matinee or something and if something feel good to me, I'm a shout. I'm just a shouter. If something is good to me, I'll be like, go ahead, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? And when I tell you, I was in the matinee or something one time and I just, yeah, go ahead. And then white people turn around and look at me like, I said, I paid for my ticket too. It may be standing room, but I paid. I paid. And so I try to craft that in whatever space I'm in, whether it be theater, whether it be television, I just try to be my authentic self without an ounce of white supremacy, because that takes work. That takes work to take off that white hood off your head, because you were born with it. You were born thinking, oh, my nose and my lips and my this and my that and the work that we have to do to say, no, this place belongs to me. I always talk about whenever we did Ain't No More, I remember there was a review that was like, I think it was Hollywood Reporter or something, and they were like, oh, it's so good, but there were so many colloquialisms that went by so fast and didn't have time to do it. I said, well, how many times have I sat in a Neil Simon play and there were so many colloquialisms that went by so fast? And the audacity of you to think that I need to cater to you so that you can understand. Right? It's like if I gotta lean into your shit, you gotta lean into my shit. Yeah. Because it's like, and I always say, listen, white people, I don't mind. I'm like, y'all all right. But listen, you might not get an invitation, but the door is unlocked. The door is unlocked. We're gonna make yourself a plate. We could dance together. We're gonna teach you the Tamia dance. You could join in if you got, just don't fuck us up, because you got it. But it's the audacity of like the thought that the American theater thinks that it truly belongs to them. And then even sometimes when you go see black works, you can feel it. I can feel when the food is unseasoned for the taste of somebody else. I can feel it, and it just feels like this patented blackness that's like something for, well, I'm not gonna say that, but it's just you could feel it. You can feel it.
And so thinking about that, and thinking about all of that medicine that comes in with love, right? And thinking about the play that you did at Baltimore Center Theater. Yep. Oh happy day. That you're bringing to the public. How does grief fit into that mechanism? How does black grief and black sorrow fit into the mechanism of having to understand black love, and fit into the mechanism of understanding a black future that is liberated?
Yes. The thing about black grief is that sometimes for a lot, and I could just speak for my own experiences, my own family, but sometimes the grief is a blockage to the flow of love. And the things that get over that blockage sometimes are the things where they don't necessarily have the language, but they have the action, right? For so many black folks growing up, it's like, oh, I love you because I pay the bills. I love you because I put food on your back. I mean, I love you because of that. And the idea that there is this blockage, there is this lack of communication, there is this thing that we don't necessarily know how to push through to get that flow of love out, or we just don't communicate our own receptions of love, right? Because it's like, to you, it might be like, oh, I go to work. I literally wake up every morning and I go to work for my love for you because I love you. Otherwise, I would stay my ass at home, right? But to me, it's like, no, I need you to tell me you love me. I need you to show up to this thing. I need you to hug me. I need you to listen to me, right? And I feel like so often it's hard because, kids should be seen and not heard. Yeah. you know? So it's like, I want to listen to you. And I think with this play specifically, it breaks through this kind of like, that pipe that I'm talking about of like us not necessarily knowing. Like when you think about it, this is kind of strange to think about. But we were enslaved for a lot longer than we've been free. So we're still trying to figure out family dynamics in a lot of ways. Like we're still trying to figure out the mommy, daddy, brother, sister, daughter, son thing, because there was not that. Like we had to, now we're like building it and we're figuring out what that language is and how that is. But for so long, because we were considered property, there was no. So the work that we're doing in all of our works essentially is really like finding the language for that love in the archive, right? Because I would say that one of the first things in the American canon by Black playwright where you really got to see a complicated love in that way was A Raisin in the Sun. There was something so human about it, and so like the fact that Walter Lee's version of love is I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do this thing, and we gonna do it. I'm gonna use this money for this. I don't give a fuck about your shoes, and we'll worry about that on the other side, right? And I think that it's a figuring out of it all that lands in family drama, specifically a show like Oh Happy Day, which is essentially a family drama, and trying to understand what happy means. And trying to understand the idea that like happy is a radical act of choice. It is not a feeling or an emotion or a thought. It's the idea that if you don't own your happy in the dark, then you'll only rent it in the light. You know, that thing that has to be your core. It's not about circumstance. It's about I know where my happy is. I know how to put it on the shelf and take it down when I need to take it down and use it for what I need to use it for to get through the day. Right? And that's really what Oh Happy Day is kind of investigating through my own ratchet reimagining of Noah's Ark.
So thinking about what you represent in many ways, which is the next generation, right? And thinking about the generations or the future curators that will be inspired because of the doors that you have opened. What are ways in which we can think about connecting with the next generation? Ways in which we could think about building with the next generation? Ways and things that we are not actually centering in other rooms and need to be spoken in this room, so that as people are thinking about ways of stitching, way of building, way of architecting, a generation's not lost, but included in to the fabric of what the future can look like.
Yeah, for me it's all about accessibility and knowledge, because I just think that, and I get shit when I say this, but I just think that we need to move into 2025 with a lot of things. I think that there is no reason why a show that has closed should not be somewhere streamable. Should not be somewhere accessible for somebody in some other state, in some other city, to have access to it. Because not only for the preservation of it, but also we're losing artists. We're losing artists, and so many people, they no longer, if something happens in the world or if something happens in their life, the first thing they do is go to social media. The first thing they do is go and post and make a TikTok and make a stitch and make a da-da-da-da. But if you let that thing that you feel gestate and you pour it into art in some way, shape, or form, that's where a play comes from. That's where a song comes from. That's where a film comes from. But the problem is that a lot of people don't have access to theater, so they don't even know that it's a capability to turn that thought or that feeling in your gut into something other than 160 characters, you know? And so it's my hope that, like, people learn to share the work. Like, it's okay for it to live beyond the 200-seat theater and the 400-seat theater and the 2,000-seat theater. It is okay, because that is how it lives, actually. That is not only how, which also we need actors' equity to get all up in it, because like, that don't make no sense. These people could be making residuals. While they were serving at Chili's and doing whatever they got to do in the meantime, they could be getting residuals. It's like, how do we build that in? Because it just makes no sense to me how like there is not a theater section on Netflix, or on Hulu, or on Disney Plus, or BET Plus, or any of that. Like, why is there not a theater section? And I'm not talking about like, also it's about direction too, right? Because it's not We don't want the flat, just shot here, shot here, shot here. I want to see boogers. I want to see boogers in the nose. I need that camera to move. Because it's on the stage doesn't mean it can't be cinematic, right?
Very much so.
So it's like, how do we do that? How do we make that happen? And although it costs money, especially in New York City, it's like over $1 million just to shoot something because of the unions, you know? It's crazy, it's crazy. So it's like figuring out how to preserve theater in that way, because it does nothing but, if you put, say you put Fat Ham on Netflix, right? So you put Fat Ham on Netflix. What's gonna happen is people are gonna watch it on Netflix, love it on Netflix. Then when they hear it, it's coming to their town or some local production is doing it. The first thing they're gonna do is want to see it live.
Yes.
Or see this person's interpretation of it, you know?
Yes.
And so I just want us to figure out how to connect, because that's the biggest thing. They just don't know about it, and they don't know why they should care. You know, they don't know why they should care. But once they're exposed to it, like for some reason, my niece and nephew, they're like 6 and 5 and 13, right? And they all live in Texas. And come on, Texas. Hey, Houston, Texas, baby. But I was so shocked. So when I tried to turn them into little musical theater things, I tried, but then when I left, it was like, when I came back, it was just some other stuff. I was like, why y'all watching that? But then when I came back this past summer, they were obsessed with Hamilton. Obsessed with Hamilton. And I was just so grateful that they could like even interact with it. And then what's gonna happen is they wanna see Hamilton live. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do we do that with our works? How do we do that with works that are not telling white narratives but are telling black narratives? You know, how do we do that? And so that's one of my goals that I hope to, you know, help push forward in some way, shape, or form, or whatever way I can.
In thinking about those narratives of the next generation, and thinking about narratives around just speaking into like the history, what are ways in which you found access to history? What are ways in which you are rooted in history? Because even in your keynote, history was such a key and essential cornerstone of it, and fact-checking, right? Can you just talk to history, the act of remembering, and how you find that memory to be remembered by?
Yeah, that's a, I don't even know how to answer that question, because I was a weird kid. I had a Harriet Tubman dollhouse. It was like yes. And it's exactly what you think it is. It was like a 2-layered shack. And she came with it was a little Harriet Tubman, and she came with a gun. And you could just, I'm dead ass. And you could put it anywhere in the little dollhouse, wherever you wanted her to be. And she had a little pamphlet, you know what I mean? She did. Harriet's dream house, okay? And then I also wrote to Coretta Scott King, and she sent me back this letter with a signed picture of Martin, and I was obsessed with Rosa Parks. And then this is what takes the cake. I was literally in 3rd grade, and I would during recess, I would march around the playground and pretend like I was in Selma. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I don't know what that was about. I was a weird kid. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with history in that way. Anytime we went to Blockbuster on a Friday night, you know, I was allowed to pick something. My brother was allowed to pick something. And anytime I went to Blockbuster, they knew what I was walking out with. Roots. I was walking out with Roots, and it was that big-ass VHS where they had to put the rubber band around them because it was like 5 different VHSs. They were like, Roots again? They're trying to drink coffee. I'm watching Kuta get wet. Like, I'm just, like, I was that kid, and so I just was always obsessed with history. And I don't know, maybe it's some kind of umbilical cord to something or somebody, but I always had this pride, and I started the Black History class at my junior high, and you know, I just did all these things, and because I feel like that's the ground beneath my feet. That's the thing that I can stand on to actually move forward and do whatever it is that I do, it's just, it informs, because it's all in the gumbo, right? It's all in the meal that you serve. It's the black pepper, it's the roux, it's the sausage, it's the shrimp, it's the chicken, it's all in there. And so my hope is that one of my favorite quotes that one of my professors told me one time was like, you are a descendant of who you read. So like whatever you read and falls into you, you pour out work into the world. The person you give it to may never read anything about that person that you read, but they know something about them because they tasted the food that was influenced by them, right? And so it's like it's just the gumbo. I love it.
I love the fact that your teacher said you are, can you say it one more time for us?
You are what did I say? Descendant, child. You are a descendant of who you've read, yeah.
Because the idea of being descendants of who we read, right? The idea of being descendants of the act of taking in knowledge and what we take in, it makes you think of what have I taken in that has affected my ability to find sanity. It makes you think of what have you taken in that has helped you to find grounding. And when we think about the kind of psychological, metaphysical kind of space we live in currently, where things feel under attack in many ways, and one has to find their central core. The question that you're uplifting inside of that is that what are you reading that is making that exacerbated? Because the reality, as just picking up what Mary Schmidt Campbell said, is that the mechanism of our rightfulness to exist has already been paid for and shown that it will happen over and over and over again. That this is not a doomsday declaration. This is a cyclical thing that has happened before, and that cyclical thing that's happened before is because what she's read has made it clear that we are in a history pattern that we might need to disrupt. And what happens if we disrupt the history pattern versus living in the cycle that this is the doomsday? So that's really great. I just want to make sure everyone got that medicine, because that was some good medicine. My next question, because I think they're going to try to kick me off the stage soon. I got you. I also looked at the time. I got it. When you think about the future, and I want you to imagine an Afro-future, a quantum future, a future that is comprised of a reality that you desire to have happen. A, you could tell me what that theater looks like, but B, also tell me what that society looks like. Because also drawing in what Mark said, and from Camilla's beautiful question, is there ability to build an institution that assigns the political norm, like what's happening to us now? And Mark saying no. So then that means symbiotically we have to build the society that we want so that the theater that we want can be reflective, that the two don't get to live. So if there's homelessness in the streets, it affects the ability of the theater that we want to show up. If there is starvation in the street, it affects the ability of the theater that we want to show up. The symbiotic nature of an ecosystem, bringing in our sister Nicole's work into, I'm trying to draw everyone in, bringing our sister Nicole's work in of like ecosystem building. How we're taught is we eat it up, but how it lives is that it's symbiotically making a stargazing map of a reality that's actually casting multiple different worlds. So, in thinking about the world that you might want to create and thinking about the mechanisms of that world that has that future of what it looks like, can you articulate what that looks like? Can you articulate what are there rules in that space? Do there need to be rules in that space? And where do we exist in a way in which that this thing called race does not abide, we don't abide by this thing called race that was constructed that restricts our cultural practice?
Woo!
That was a question. But it's my last one, so that's why you get to go. And you don't give me one more chance, I'm gonna make it work.
Biggie, give me one more chance. No, I feel. Oh. There's two answers to that question, because there's one where it's just euphoria to me. It's just we recognize each other as spirits. We recognize each other as spiritual beings that we might run into in the next chapter. As spiritual beings who also have a story on their back. As spiritual beings who have or were built to have love to give and might have had it sucked out of them. There's an empathy that comes with that, because everything else is erased, right? Language is erased, barrier is erased. We recognize each other as spirits, and when we are in a theater, we are just a collection of spirits telling the story of spirits. That is one where there is no, capitalism, and there is no, it just is. We just flow, which is what I hope it might be, And then there's the version that I don't want to depend on society's shift, because I want to shift society, and I want the theater and arts in general to be funded by the government. Nobody should be asking for money, right? Nothing should be unable to happen when it comes to art, because art then influences culture, right? And culture then influences the world. I feel like whenever I low-key be jealous whenever I go to, I went to London for the first time, and I was like, hold up, how y'all got all this? We ain't do that at, I love the idea that theater was just a part of culture. It wasn't a part of that specific city's culture. It was just a part of culture. And my hope is that with the funding, then we are able to, pay the unions what they need in order to get everybody what they need, right? And film every single thing that ever touches a stage and allow that to be accessible at the click of a button, right? It's for theater itself to either be free, or if you need to keep the lights on, go back to $2 tickets. Go back to $2 tickets. Go back to, or at least have days of $2 tickets, something. Because it's like, we try to find that now. Like I just don't like these, because we have these systems where, it's free, go, it's free to show up here, it's free to do this thing. But then the people who are able to access that free are the people who don't got to work in the morning. The people who don't got to, so of course the people who are going to take up the space are people who can actually afford the thing, right? And it's like, how do we hold space for free? How do we give free to the people who need free? How do we do that? And I think that comes from intentionality in a different way. And I just think everything should be free. Listen, if you ever wanted to see me, the only time I've ever stood in line for 3, 4, 5 hours was free pancake day at IHOP. That was it. And if you know me, you already know. It's like there's something about that it goes back to the core of humanity. And I think that's what, I hope to do with each thing that I do, is a small little chip. It feels like there's this thing called humanity that's been covered in concrete and marble and myrrh and dirt and shit and feathers, and everything that I do is slowly trying to chip onto that thing to get down to the core of that humanity in some way, shape, or form,
And with that, I say thank you to Jordan E. Cooper.
Thank you.
So, we have to do our group photo. But then Tavia and Sade need to come up. I think that, come on, Tavia, we rapping. Come on, Sade, we done made a little bit of history. Thank you, Jordan, so much.
I'm just stunned by the day and grateful by the incredibly rich meal that we've all served each other.
A lot to digest.
And there's a lot to digest. I believe that our one remaining task is to really uplift the manifestos one more time, and then also to talk about the imminent release of Catalyst.
The beautiful programs that you have, the cover of them are the faces of the artists and practitioners. If you're in the room, do you mind standing up again? Who have been commissioned. Adrian, Patricia, Sage, Aoife, India, Stevie Walker-Webb, who's not currently here. But you served them a meal that they have been digesting all day through the lens of their expertise and practice. And their manifestos will be of their, as Mary Schmidt Campbell says, intellectual capital, but it will also be seasoned with your DNA and your questions and all of this. So thank you all for saying yes to the commission, and thank you all for coming out today and staying and giving and being present, and as Jordan said, and listening and listening and listening. And what we charge all of us to do in this alchemized space is to continue to lean in, continue to ask the questions, write them on the card, etch them in your heart, right? Lean into all of the things we've been taught to forget, because we know after a day like today, this theme that remembering is a radical act is a tool of liberation for all of us. And all of that will be captured. Shout out to Nadja in the audience. This will be included in the paper that Tavia lifted up, which will be a culmination of Catalyst's work over the last 15 years. So thank you all, and we all know that the last word always goes to Dr. Reverend Brother Jonathan McCrory.
I mean, what I sort of, yes. What I want to do is, one, want to shout out all the MBT staff that's here: Mandisa, Abisola, Belinda, Alex Terrell, Nikki, Barry, and Brianna, and Niafa, and Kylie. Every last one of our staff members who are able, and the ones who I have not mentioned, help to make sure that Sade, myself, National Black Theater can stand tall. Without their commitment, that would not happen. And also want to shout out the entire Park Avenue Armory team, because seamlessly they have made sure that we have a haven so that we could do this work and feel nourished by it and not depleted by it, and feel like our resources are there when we need it. The flipboards, there's light, there's food, there's drink. So thank you, Park Avenue Armory, for holding radical space for Black bodies to do some work to heal themselves and for themselves.
And also take the programs with you, because they're more than just a program. You know, nobody prints shit anymore. So
it's a keepsake.
It's a keepsake. And what's in each of the programs are the bios of the extraordinary artists that you were able to hear from and witness their practice. So please do take that home. And a huge thank you to Mary Schmidt Campbell, to Mark and Cam, to Nicholas, to Imani Azuri, to
Jordan?
Well, Jordan, yes.
Samara.
And
Samara.
Thank you. And Ebony
and Nicole.
I said Cam, yeah. Cam, because we family, it's Cam. But thank you to each of you all who gave your full day that, we wrestled with, a little honorarium, and the people who were on stage make 1,000 times more than we were able to offer. And not only did they say yes, but they came and they spent the whole day. So thank you so much to all of the artists that participated today.
And then lastly, we're going, in the tradition of MBT, we're going to take a unifying breath together, just to bind and close and to create a space for us to honor all of the medicine that lives vibratorily in our bodies, because sound is trapped in atoms. Atoms are what can make our body and cells move and work. So there's knowledge that lives inside of you that will live as a reverberation of your existence that you may not get until 2 or 3 days later, but your atoms have taken in as a recorder the messages that you need. And so with that, we're going to take a unifying breath. I'm going to give you a little bit around the technology that I know about breath so that we're all on the same page and on a journey together and breathing together as we move out of this space into a world ready to actually change the world that we are walking into by the radical presence of who we are. Breath is a very important thing. Breath is the thing that allows for this instrument, this vessel, this gift, this machine to operate. Breath woke you up this morning. So with that, we're going to take a unifying breath, knowing that the space and time which we're able to occupy will never happen again. The sacred algorithm of you choosing to stay with us from 1 until 7, from 2 until 7, from 3 until 7, till 6 until 7. No matter how long you stayed, you made a choice. And in that choice, you breathed in a technology. And in that technology, we honor it with a unifying breath. And when you breathe in, I hope you breathe in the wisdom that you received, the liberation that you deserve, the grace that you have, and the future that is waiting for you. And that in that inhale, you break that bake and root into your system, baked and root all the way down to Mother Earth's core, and baked and uplifted all the way to the crown of your chakra, up to the heavens above. And that when you breathe in all of that. And then when you exhale, you actually exhale as a gift. So it wraps around everyone who was in this building, everyone who is in this building. So we walk out of here as lighter, brighter, abundant human beings, able to do the work we were called on this planet to do. So count of 3, inhale in, exhale out, and enjoy the rest of this glorious weekend, taking care of what you need to so your heart can be ready for the world ahead of you. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, inhale. Then exhale.
Ashe.